Welcome back, everybody. This is Home Theater Fanatics, and as I said before, today is all about the 2.1 system. Yeah, I know these numbers, the 2s and the dots and the 1s, can all kind of get confusing.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But we'll talk through all of that just a bit and show you exactly what that means. Then we'll show you how to set up one of these systems. And there's two different ways that you can set up a 2.1 system. We'll talk about the AVR method and then the direct audio out of a television system. And remember, these are both going to be from the point of view of being set up in a audio video system and not a 2-channel system. That's a little bit different, and we can get into that in another video. But for us today, we're going to look at how you implement this into something that's got some kind of display device.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Now, before we get into all of that though, please take a moment, like and subscribe.
Do it! Just do it!
And I'd also like some comments from you if you've used a 2.1 system before and what you thought about it, right? Because a lot of people, when they're thinking about 2.1, the big decision comes between 2.1 and a soundbar, right? And which one's gonna be best? The 2.1 system is gonna be better. So anyway, we'll talk through all that. But before we get started, let's take a moment and look at the gear that we're gonna feature in this video. We've got a pair of bookshelf speakers from Martin Logan, the 35X TIs, and these are really great. Click up on the link up here and you can see where they won the last bookshelf battle. I mean, they are just wonderful pieces of equipment. And then on the subwoofer side, which is the .1, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, we're going to use the Dynamo 1600x from Martin Logan. And this is a big 15-inch sub that's got a lot of technology packed into this box. So let's go ahead and look at these two pieces of equipment a little bit more in depth, and then we'll get into the definition of what 2.1 really is. The Martin Logan Motion 35X Ti bookshelf speaker is a powerful bookshelf speaker that is capable of delivering extreme performance with lifelike details provided by lightning-fast folded motion tweeter. The bold dynamic range of a 6.5 aluminum cone woofer with a rear-firing bass port and a proprietary crossover network. XT stands for extreme. These classic performance technologies have been enhanced by the drive stabilizing dust cap design and the stiffer motor suspension. The speaker's enclosure sports a reinforced baffle and a fabric grille. The signature folded motion tweeter uses an extremely low mass diaphragm that squeezes air, thus demanding significantly less excursion than the typical 1-inch dome tweeter. The mid-bass driver is a custom-built low distortion driver that pairs a high-powered magnet with an aluminum cone diaphragm. The frequency response is from 50 to 25,000 Hertz. Recommended amplification power is 20 to 250 watts. Horizontal dispersion is 80 degrees. Vertical is 30 degrees, and the sensitivity is 92 decibels. The Martin Logan Dynamo 1600x features an 1800 watt peak amplifier, a 15-inch audiophile grade woofer, extensive input options, optional wireless connectivity, control via a Bluetooth app, Anthem room correction arc, and user configurable front or down firing designs. Dramatic bass detail and attack, superb extension, and room shaking output ensure a compelling music and home theater experience. The cost for the unit clocks in at $1999.99, $2,000. The box is sealed in a non-resonant cabinet, and the Anthem room correction can be done via smartphone or PC. One cool feature of the subwoofer is that the feet are removable so that you can convert this from a forward-firing to a downward-firing subwoofer. Also, as I noted, you can add an optional wireless module that allows you to connect this thing without stringing some type of XLR or RCA cable across the room, and that's pretty nifty because this unit is built in to a little cubby hole on the amplifier side, so you don't have to have extra external devices to do this. Another interesting item is that the surround on this unit is inverted. So instead of it poking out, it actually curves inward. I've only seen that, I think, on, well, maybe this subwoofer. So that's kind of an interesting detail to be aware of. Now that you know a little bit more about the speakers that we're going to be setting up, let's talk about what a 2.1 system really is. So when you see people talk about speakers, they'll say things like 2.1.4. Well, what that refers to are the number of speakers that they have in their environment. The first number is the number of bed channel speakers, so speakers that are typically on the floor. The .1 in the middle, and sometimes people will say .2, .3, .4, refers to the number of subwoofers. It's really referring to that there is a dedicated subwoofer channel, which is usually low frequency effects plus some of the crossed over content from your other speakers. And if you see people say .2, they're really trying to tell you that they have two subwoofers, but it's still really that one channel of information. And then on the end, the third number, .4, .6, .2, that refers to height speakers, and that could be either speakers for Atmos or for DTS, something like that, but it's speakers that are on the ceiling or mounted high up on the wall.
You guys are so smart. Like a brain factory in here.
So today, since we're installing a 2.1 system, the 2 means that there are going to be two channels, and that always means your left and right. And then the .1 means that we'll have one subwoofer. So what we're going to do is have those two speakers, the left and right, then we're going to cross those over and send all the bass frequencies to that sub. As I said before, we're going to talk about two different ways this can be set up. So the first way that you can set this up is with an AVR, and an AVR is an audio video processor, and this is a Denon or a Marantz or a Yamaha, the box that you usually see in some type of theater or media room that has all of your HDI inputs from all your sources, and then it'll have an HDMI out going to your television, and then it'll have your amplified speaker outputs for whatever speakers you have in your environment. So today we're going to do, like I said, 2.1. The setup with AVR is really straightforward. So if you flip it around and look at the back, you're going to have a left and right speaker output. You're going to take speaker cable and connect those outputs to these Martin Logan 35 XTIs. Then you're going to have a sub output, and this is typically going to be an RCA cable, and that's going to plug directly from the back of the AVR into the input on the back of the Martin Logan subwoofer. There are a few settings that you need to think about in your AVR, and it'll be different for each of the AVRs, but you'll want to set the sound type to 2.1, and that tells the AVR that you're going to cross this over at some point and send bass frequencies along with the LFE channel information to that subwoofer. Most people will take 80 Hertz as a good spot to set that AVR at for the crossover. The way that you'll set this up in your AVR is set your left and right speakers to small. That tells the AVR that you're going to cross over those speakers and pull those low frequencies off and send those to the subwoofer. And like I said, 80 Hertz is a good spot to set the crossover for those speakers. With the AVR setup, now it's time to take a look at the subwoofer and make the settings there. Now, if you flip this thing around, you have to understand that you're going to have frequencies from about 120 Hertz down, and that's going to be 80 from crossed over left and right, plus the full range of the LFE channel, which goes up to about 120 Hertz, being sent to the sub. Now on the Dynamo, there's a lot of cool technology built into the subwoofer, and if you've got the app installed, you can activate the app on the back of the subwoofer and then control everything inside of the app. If you don't want to use the app, just use the back of the subwoofer. Now, the app can also do subwoofer tuning and those kinds of things, so if your AVR can't do that, you might find benefit in using the application to do that. But to keep things simple, you can set that to off and not use that at all.
All right, let's go through the settings. First off, you'll want to set your app control to local. This is your level, and I'll set that into the middle. You have your trigger, you have auto and on. And let's put it on, and you'll need to plug your trigger in here. And then coming from your AVR, you're gonna have your line level in, and that's gonna plug in to your LFE in there. Finally, power. With that set up, you're good to go.
The other type of setup is hanging this equipment directly off the back of a television. So in an AVR world, that AVR is going to do all this processing, and you'll have dedicated outputs to the subwoofer and to the speakers. In TV world though, you're typically going to have a left and right out that you'll want to connect to the speakers somehow, right? Since these speakers aren't powered, you're going to need an extra component in this type of setup, and that's a dedicated 2-channel amplifier.
Now let's talk about the setup from your television. So basically you're going to have your TV outs, and they're going to run to some kind of amplifier that needs to have a pass through at the RCA level. And from those RCAs, you're going to need to plug in those here. You can use the app or you can use local. If you use local, I like to go ahead and set the subwoofer to 50% just to get started. Now, on a television, you're typically not going to have a trigger out, so you might want to just put this into the on positions so your sub stays on all the time. And then last but not least, you'll need a little bit of power for the unit.
After all of that description, I imagine you guys feel like you're super pros at setting up a 2.1 system, and you should be, because those are pretty much the details you need to go from soup to nuts and build out that 2.1 system, whether you're using an AVR or hanging this thing straight off the RCA outputs on your television. Now, I listened to this setup in my living room, and it was awesome. I mean, this Martin Logan gear sounds really, really, really good, and I'm really excited about it and excited to tell you the story of how you can perform that same kind of setup and get that same kind of performance in your room. So give it a shot and let me know if you liked it or not, because 2.1 is kind of the gateway drug into the rest of home theater. Once you figure that out and get that going, you're going to want more. You're going to want that center channel. You're going to want those surrounds and all those other things that make home theater the spectacular kind of event that it is. So thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget, like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.